Welcome to the Run for God Run Club, where you will find God in a runner's space.
Welcome to the Run for God Run Club. This is your one stop each week to be motivated and inspired to get off the couch and onto the running trail, where you can, in turn, inspire others to do the same. Let's learn, laugh, and leap into running together, giving God the glory for what we are able to do in His name. Amen. I am your running host, Dean Thompson. Running is getting better because spring is coming. Let's talk running and faith. And as usual, joining me is Run for God founder Mitchell Hollis.
So the pollen's in the air and the snot's in our nose, Dean.
It is, but that warmer air feels good.
Oh, man. Well, you know, we had, 80 degrees last weekend, and this weekend, I don't think the high Saturday is supposed to get over like 32, 33.
I know.
So go figure. Being in the South, got to love the weather.
All the athletes I'm coaching are like, oh, the long run's going to be awful. They're already thinking about Saturday morning.
Yeah.
It's going to be like less. This could be 20
it's
or
supposed
something.
to be 20-something, the wind blowing. And,
Yeah.
And we had 80s last week.
I know.
Crazy.
I know. It's crazy. Welcome to the South.
Yeah. So, hey, before we get started, let's talk about our sponsor for this week. And again, if you are a business out there and you want to help out Run for God and allow us to help you out, give runlanehollis@gmail.com an email. Lane will get you all the information that you need to know. But this week is the people that make our smiles look better. Smile Doctor Orthodontist is your best choice for braces. It's a fun, playful environment that takes all the stress out of braces. The workers are very caring and work toward each patient's specific needs until they are complete. Your first consultation is free, and they will examine what exactly needs to be done for you personally. If you're interested in getting braces, find your local Smile Doctors now and get your free consultation. Again, both my boys have been there, got their braces. Lane is about to get his off this summer. He's excited, but yeah, it's a great atmosphere down there. It's very unique. It's not your normal dentist, orthodontist office. It's a different environment when you go in there. So yeah,
I like those folks. I like those folks who do things in a little bit different direction and make things fun. Yeah. How about a Facebook post from last week? This one comes from Michelle Christensen. And Michelle, she's got such a great heart. I've gotten some emails from Michelle, and she's just a good-hearted lady, wants to help people and do good stuff. And this is her post. It says, "Victory post. To say I am proud is an understatement. We celebrate you, Papa, and are grateful for all that God is doing in your life. I truly believe that you are one of the people God put on my heart when He asked me to start from scratch and follow every part of the Couch to Marathon last year. The preparation and sacrifice has been so worth it, and I'm excited for more of your journey. But today, we rejoice in 20 minutes of straight running and trust God for many more physical, mental, and spiritual transformations for you as you continue to #run for God. Oh, and keep up the good work stretching." There must be a story behind that one.
Yeah. You know, for those of you who listen and may not understand what she's talking about, in the 5K challenge or the marathon challenge, we're in the 5K section of it right now. This past week was week 8, which is a big week for people in the 5K challenge. It's when we go from walking, running intervals, or walking faster intervals, to straight walking fast or running for 20 minutes straight. And it's a big week.
Yeah.
People doubt themselves. I saw another Facebook post that said, a lady said that Mitchell and Dean kept telling us, and I kept not believing until today.
Yeah.
And so, it's cool to see that transformation that takes place. Yeah. Really at this week at the 5K challenge. Yeah,
there were a whole bunch of good posts about the 20-minute run this week. And is there anything better than sharing running with, whether it be a spouse or children or an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, whoever, somebody in the family? It's awesome, isn't it, to be able to share that with them?
Yeah, it sure is.
And to help them. It's really cool when you overcame and you did something pretty cool, and then now you're able to go back and help them. It's a lot of fun to watch, for sure.
Big breakthrough for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's fun to see. I had a trivia question for last week. Our trivia question was about indoor track. We had talked about indoor track, and so here was the question. There was a man back in the late 70s, early 80s who was known as the chairman of the boards because he was great at running indoor track. Who was he, and what country was he from? You had no idea. You've probably never heard
clue.
this name.
Never, still don't know this name.
Eamon Coughlin was, he's from Ireland.
Is it Eamon?
Eamon Coughlin. Yeah. That's the way you say it.
Because Lane has a teammate, and they
pronounce it Eamon?
Eamon.
Yeah. I've heard it both ways.
Yeah.
But most of the time I think I heard him on broadcast. I think I remember it being Eamon Coughlin. So maybe it's somewhere in between. It's not Eamon or Eamon. It's
tomato.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know. But back then they had some guys from Ireland who were really fast. Ireland had a whole stable of fast dudes, and Ray Flynn is one comes to mind. There's a couple of other guys that were huge, and they always came to New York to run this. What was it called? The Wanamaker Mile, which is one of the most prestigious indoor mile races, probably the most prestigious indoor mile in the world. And he would come and watch and run it. And of course, back then, when it came to outdoor season, there were these guys from Steve Ovett and Sebastian Coe, and you had Steve Scott and Sidney Marie. You had so many guys that were really good outdoors. And when it got to be outdoor season, Eamon Coughlin would just kind of blend in with everybody else. But on the indoor season, there was just something about him being able to run indoors faster than anybody else. His times were actually as fast or faster indoors as they were outdoors. And why that is?
Is it because he can navigate a turn better? I mean, because that's really the only difference, isn't it?
And you would think about it. You would think that would be the case, but I don't know. It's just, I don't know if he just liked running on the boards.
Because many people listening may not know, but an outdoor track is 400 meters, 400 yards, whatever.
Yep.
Indoor is usually half that.
Well, indoor nowadays is 200 meters. The track that the first sub 350 indoor, he was the first guy to break sub 350, but the Wanamaker Mile, which he won 7 times, was on a 134 meter track.
It's just so weird.
So it's a tiny
How did
track.
it become 134 meters?
Well, it's like 12 laps to a mile. It comes out to be like 134, and I think 134. I kind of did a little bit of quick math on that, but somewhere in that neighborhood. But it's shorter than 200 meters.
Strange.
So sharp.
So it's even tighter.
Yeah, really sharp turns, because the straightaways were longer than the turns too. So the turns were super sharp, and he was just really, really good at navigating those turns, which is probably why so many of the tracks, of course today they're all banked, but back then the banking was way more important. Because if you didn't bank a track that had that sharp a turn, there's no way you could stay on the track. It was just going to be too hard. And then that Wanamaker Mile that he ran, he won 7 times. That was the record up until Bernard Lagat. I don't know if you know the name, but Bernard Lagat, but he's a transplanted. I think he's from Kenya, but American citizen, and great guy, and he finally broke that record and ran 8, but Eamon's 7 were pretty impressive. The Wanamaker Mile has been around since 1926, so to have the record for the most wins is pretty impressive, for sure. And then to be second is pretty impressive. But Eamon, he grew up in Ireland, but he came to the United States to run. So he ran for Villanova University, won 3 NCAA titles. Again, he set the world record for the indoor mile 3 times. He was the first one to run under 350. There still have not been many people who have ever run under 350 to this day. He won 52 of the 70 mile or 1,500 meter races that he ran in his life, which is pretty impressive. Rarely ever lost indoors. There have only been 4. I didn't realize this. There have only been 4 sub 350 miles run in the United States indoors. That surprised me. And Eamon is still one of those. Really? So, I mean, this is back in the 80s. And he's still one of the top 4 fastest on American soil. It's crazy. Now, I think the super shoes are going to change that. I think, going forward, I think that these shoes have just made people faster. Yeah. And I was listening to something the other day, and somebody was debating that, and I was like, "There's no debating that anymore." I heard Lane and Landon in the kitchen last night. I was sitting in here, and I heard them in there debating super shoes, because Lane evidently got 2 new pairs of shoes yesterday, and Landon, I think you gave some to Landon. Yeah. And it was just funny to hear that. They weren't debating it. It was just all about shoes. I'm like, what 15 and 19-year-old sit in the kitchen of a house and
have a debate about running shoes.
Yeah.
But mine do.
Yeah.
Thanks to you.
Well, glad I could help. Eamon was also the first guy that was over 40 to run a sub 4 minute mile. So there's only been a few of those, and of course he was the first one. And this is interesting. Once Eamon's career was over, he was a very, he had this personality that just drew you to him. You had to root for Eamon Coughlin, and he became a senator. He was appointed to a senator in Ireland. So once his appointment was up, he ran to continue holding that seat. And apparently there was some debate, and he, in this debate, did some kind of an impression of somebody that didn't go over very well. And it fell flat, and he didn't get elected.
Wow.
So not a very good politician, apparently. Probably too honest, if I'm guessing. I don't know what the reference was to or who it was, but probably somebody who was just a little too honest. And now he's director of fundraising for a children's medical foundation. So, and of course, he's on television from time to time as a commentator and that kind of thing. So, yeah, he was such a fun guy to root for. He had this energy about him. And of course, the fact that he was from Ireland and had that cool accent, that didn't hurt him. That was pretty cool. So
sounds like a cool guy.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen, we've got a 5K coming up April 9th.
We do. That's right around the corner.
We, if you're listening to this, if you're in earshot of this, we want you to come to Dalton and join us April the 9th. It's the 5K. If you're part of Run Club, you can come join us for the whole weekend. We've got stuff going on Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night, and then again on Sunday morning. So go to runforgod.com and check it out. It's a great 5K. It's on a probably one of the greatest cross-country trails around here.
Oh, absolutely.
In my opinion.
Yes.
Because there is no asphalt. There is no gravel. It is all grass and mulch trails and boardwalks.
Yeah.
So great running surface. Even, some people hear trails and they go, ooh, I don't know if I want to do that. This is about as smooth of a trail as you're going to get.
Yeah.
It's basically like running on the road, just softer.
Yep.
So, go to runforgod.com, check it out, and join us April the 9th for the Run for God 5K right here in Dalton, Georgia.
Yeah, for sure. Don't forget about that 5K challenge coming up too.
Yeah.
For those that are out there that might want to teach a class.
April the 3rd. We kick that off. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, get on it. All right. You know that we are sponsored by J Radio. And if you haven't listened to J Radio yet, we wish you'd go out there and at least check it out and see what you think. It's great music you never have to worry about hearing words and things that you don't want to hear when you listen to J Radio.
You get up early before the kids for your morning workout.
Good morning. Wake up to a brand new day.
Spend some time studying or reading your devotion. And pick up the kids each afternoon. Whatever the moment, J Radio has you covered. Get your account at jradio.com and download the app in your app store. J Radio, music for every moment.
All right, so we're back. And Dean, I got the realization last night that I'm getting older.
Oh, great.
No, it's not. What are you talking about? And I also evidently tell dad jokes.
Of course.
Didn't know that.
Well,
So Lane was listening to the podcast from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he informed me last night that one of my jokes just fell flat on the younger generation. He was listening to the part of the podcast where you were talking about, kids these days, they don't stand a chance because everything's videoed. And when you were younger, there's not as much video or times available. And I made the comment, I said, what'd they do? Write those, they wrote those on tablets back then.
Yeah.
Lane didn't get it. You know why?
Because he doesn't understand what that means.
No. He thought iPad.
Oh.
Tablet.
Yeah.
So I realized I've skipped a generation all of a sudden.
Yes.
I'm not the latest generation anymore.
I hadn't thought about that.
And so Lane was like, what's the big deal writing it on an iPad? I mean, come on. And he didn't get that I was talking about biblical times. So evidently I told a dad joke and got older all in that same podcast.
Well, I'll just say this, and Lane, if you're listening, maybe you need to spend more time in Exodus.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go, Lane.
Well, I went to this past week. I went to a high school track meet, and then I went to a college track meet.
Stark difference.
Oh my goodness, the difference. Oh, I mean, every time you walk across the track at a college track meet, you got to be careful because there's probably a race going on. Yeah, and in high school, there's you spend more time not running than you do running, and what a difference.
Southeast was we were at Southeast this weekend, and which is one of the better run.
That one moves along a little faster.
Run really does a good job. But we were still there for, I think it started at 8:30. The field event started at 8:30, and it was almost 1 o'clock before we got out of there.
Yeah.
And
our college meets on Saturday lasted maybe an hour or so longer than that, but you got to realize they had, 8 sections of the 1500. They had, they've got more events. The events last longer. The steeplechase and the 5K, they last longer than the. So
and if you're a distance runner, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Because Landon ran he ran the very first running event. He ran one midway, and then he runs basically the next to the last event at the very end. So you're there for the whole thing.
Because they try to spread it out. They try to make it good so you get more rest.
But it's still like watching paint dry for 90% of the time. But I mean they're fun. But it's a lot of sitting and waiting and 5 minutes of excitement and then sit and wait. Yeah. And but I did kind of walk around. A young lady that we used to camp with us, her parents used to camp with us. She did the high jump, the long jump, and the triple jump. And so I walked around with her friend, and I really got to understand some other events this week. And I usually don't go pay attention much to the other events.
It's fun to get to learn those.
It is, yeah. I mean, I learned a lot about the high jump and how much, what do you call it? Technique.
Yeah.
Technique there is. It's not just brute power. I mean, there was a girl there that she had to be 6'2". Tall, lanky girl. I mean, you would have thought she would have just creamed everybody in the high jump, but a little short girl.
Yep.
Just blistered everybody, but you could start to see the technique difference. She knew how to do it.
That's right.
And so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's kind of the field event. That's the whole idea behind a lot of field events is technique is so important. Timing and it's interesting. All right, confidence. We all struggle with it from time to time, I'd say. But the question is, should we struggle with confidence? I mean, well, Rhonda Williams, who we all know, we've heard Rhonda Williams stories before. She tells us where we should look for our confidence in a story called A Crisis of Confidence. I have written about my little dog, Star, before. We thought we were rescuing her, but now I think God brought her into our home to teach us lessons about our relationship with Him. A little dog with a big purpose. She has been with us for 4 years now and is a happy, playful little thing. But sometimes when I call her, she approaches me timidly. She tucks her head and dances around shyly. I'm her mama and she knows I love her, and so she should jump confidently into my arms when I call her. For 4 years I have loved and adored her, provided for and protected her. I have been kind, loving, and forgiving. So where is this timidity coming from? I'm a Run for God coach, and my little dog reminds me of how some of my students, and me on occasion, I have to admit, approach their goal race. They have done the work, and they're ready, but they don't approach the start line with confidence. Instead, doubts and worry fill their heads, and some wonder, why am I here? I tell them, trust your training and trust your God. You deserve to be here. But the doubts still linger. Some are intimidated by other runners. I tell them to focus on their own race and not look at everyone else. The other runners may be on a different journey. Some have been running for a long time. Others are just naturally talented, and some are not as fast as they look. I remind them where the negative thoughts come from and encourage them not to let the devil steal their joy. You are a child of the King. Hold your head high and run with confidence. It occurred to me that sometimes I approach God with the same timidity as my dog approaches me and my runners approach a race. He has shown me over and over how much he loves me and adores me, so why don't I go to him with confidence? He has provided for me, protected me, and given me a humbling amount of grace and mercy, so I should jump into his arms with confidence when he calls me. He would never ask me to do anything he has not already equipped me for. Instead, I let Satan plant doubt and insecurity in my mind. I say let, because I have the power to resist him, to defeat him, to kick him to the curb. All I have to do is call on the Holy Spirit to strengthen me and build my confidence again. All I have to do is remind myself of God's promises and his past faithfulness. All I have to do is have faith as small as a mustard seed. So when God asks me to do something and I have a crisis of confidence, the Holy Spirit whispers, trust your training, trust your God. I can move forward with full confidence because I know he is with me and will provide all that I need to be successful. Okay, Coach, let's do this.
Rhonda always has incredible stories.
Yeah, she does.
That one, and that one was no different.
Yep.
You know, I think the funny thing about this story is I think we have different dogs, obviously. Usually when my dog comes to me, and this is, I'm going to relate this to my walk with Christ because it's when I do this with Christ. Usually when my dog comes to me, head down like that, he's done something.
Yeah. Mine too.
And I think many times when I go to God in that same posture, what have I done?
Yeah.
And I think a guilty conscience many times can wreck your confidence, which is where we've got to be in daily prayer and asking forgiveness every chance we get, so that we don't tend to have that posture, because it can be cumulative.
Yeah.
You let these things build up and you don't take it to God. Before long, you are sheepishly coming to God. Just like, you know, my dog, when he comes like that, I know I can look around the couch or the corner of the house and something's tore up. So, great story, Rhonda.
Yeah, it sure was. And we do this on a grand scale with, you know, right now the world is in turmoil. Our country is so divided, and we look at that and we fret over it. I mean, what we should be doing is going, well, God knows. None of this is surprising him. None of it. And God's in control. And as much as we can be concerned about what's going on, and we certainly should be, and we certainly should be out there trying to share Christ more, especially on the things that divide us. But God's still in control. And I think that's just where we miss it. That's why we go to him the way that we do. That's why we lack confidence in everything that we do, is because we forget that God's got this. Yeah,
and the fact that, you know, there's nothing that I can do to change what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And I know some will argue that, well, together we can band together and we can make a difference. And that's true. But I shouldn't, you know, I've kind of slipped back into the news cycle with all this going on. I've talked on here about that I kind of pulled away from it, and probably this podcast is going to force me to slip back out of it, because I can feel the conviction right now. But I've let myself slip back into that 24-hour news and needing to get updated, and you know, it tears me up inside. It puts me in a bad mood. You know, I drive by the gas station, I see, you know, $5 diesel. I drive a diesel truck, and but why do I let myself get to that point? It's, to be honest, it's a lack of faith. Yeah. You know, God's in control. God's going to work this out for the good of those who love him. I need to rely and trust. You know, this whole podcast today is about trust. Yeah. I need to trust, therefore have confidence that it's all going to work out. Yeah. 2 Corinthians 3, 4, and 5 says, such confidence we have through Christ before God, not that we are competent in ourselves to claim anything for ourselves, but our competence comes from God. You know, I love New King James Version says trust, and I like how confidence and trust is interchanged. Yeah. You can interchange those words because one leads to the other. Our confidence leads to trust. Yeah. Our trust leads to confidence. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward that our trust, our confidence should not be in a political party. It should not be in gas prices. It should not be in what the outcome of Ukraine and Russia is. It should be in God. I mean, this scripture and the next scripture both are pretty straightforward about that.
Yeah, one thing that I like about this verse in a little bit different direction is that I like it because in an indirect way, it's saying just because we lack the talent of somebody else in whatever we do, including running, God made us the way he made us. And if he made us a 14-minute per mile runner, then that's who we are. Mm-hmm. And we should have confidence because that's how God made us. We should have confidence in what we are doing, regardless of the fact that there's guys up there running 6-minute miles. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important for a lot of people who listen to this to understand. For that person, it's not about winning a race, but it's about glorifying God where they are. Mm-hmm. And I think oftentimes we always feel inadequate. That's a lot of times why we lack confidence, is we feel inadequate. And we should put our trust in God. How about this one? Jeremiah 17:7 says, "But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him." Once again, we love that word blessed in that verse.
Kind of reminds you of the Beatitudes.
Yeah, but a lot of times we skip right over the word trust, right? Because that's hard. It's hard for us. As humans, I think we're built to, sin nature forces us to not trust, to be skeptical of everything that we see. And I think that's what makes trust so hard, is how many times have we put our trust in someone and then they let us down? And how many times do we have to see that before we just pull back completely? And then next time we go into it a lot more cautiously. But the problem is with God, that's not the way it works.
But we allow society to distort our view.
That's right.
Of God.
Yeah.
And God he's not like anything here. You can trust him. You should trust him. And things will work out to your benefit if you do trust him.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned the gas prices. It's a good example. We get all fired up about.
Yeah. I mean, I drive by 4 gas stations going down the road, and it's like they're in a race to see who can go higher right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, really, 30 cents difference from one to the next, and then you drive back by, and the other one's 30 cents higher.
Yep.
What good is it doing me?
None. Zero.
What good is it for me to come home and rant and rave about it? And Holly rolls her eyes at me, but it does no good. Now, does that mean that we shouldn't, if we have some kind of platform to make change, does that mean we shouldn't use that? No, we should absolutely use. If you have a platform, but most of us don't. I don't have a platform that can help bring down gas prices. So I need to close my mouth and trust God. Really?
Yeah. That's the best way to put it. Yeah. And just and understand that God's still in control again.
And Holly's she's probably gonna keep this part of this podcast on a loop in the house. And I'm gonna hear myself saying, "You need to just shut your mouth," because that's probably what she thinks, and she's correct. And when I start getting all knotted up about this kind of stuff, I do. It's a lack of faith is what that is.
I need it too. Romans 8:37. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. More than conquerors. And here's the question, because you look at that, more than conquerors. I mean, what's greater than a conqueror? And you think about it, it's because what we've gotten from God is way better than a conqueror. What does a conqueror get? What is Putin going to get if Ukraine falls? He's going to get some land, some minerals. Great. We're getting eternal life. I mean, when you weigh those on the scale, there's not even a comparison. And I think that's why we are more than conquerors. I think sometimes that we look at that as being so grandiose, like it is a huge statement, but it is that big, right?
But I think it goes back to the fact that we've talked about on here before. We can't comprehend many times eternity.
Yeah.
So we've said on here before, it's 37 billion years.
Yeah.
37 billion years of paradise versus being knotted up over gas prices. I mean, that sounds so silly when you say it like that.
It does.
But that's exactly how we look many times when we get so torn up about the little things that just don't matter. I'm not saying what's going on in Ukraine doesn't matter.
Right.
It absolutely matters. It's an atrocity. It's a human rights catastrophe. But for the whole world, for you and I to allow it to take our eyes off God is also an atrocity.
Yeah.
Because it should focus us more on God.
Yeah.
But instead, we allow it to drag us down into, just
well said.
debating and complaining, and that's not where God wants to use it.
That's right.
God will use Ukraine to glorify himself.
Right.
But we have to be looking to God to see that.
That's right. Here's a question. Ever show up for a race and feel you didn't belong?
Everyone I've ever run.
I remember this time I was in South Georgia, and I had just moved to South Georgia, and nobody down there knew me, right? And, of course, I was a pretty good runner where I'd come from, but I hadn't run in a while. And they had this all-comers track meet, and I had been running for like a week. And so I thought I would go to this all-comers track meet, and I would see what I could do in a mile, and nobody would know me, and nobody would judge me for it. And I thought, this is going to be great. And so I go to this track meet where nobody knows me, and I literally took one step onto the track, and somebody goes, "Hey, aren't you Dean Thompson?"
No.
I was like, oh, gosh, I can't believe that. Because I was embarrassed. I felt embarrassed because I felt like I didn't belong there, because what I was doing was I was measuring myself according to what I had done in the past.
Right.
And here's this guy who's run, he's run many, many miles in the 420s, who's about to not be able to break 5 minutes in a mile. Mm-hmm. And it didn't feel good to be in that, and to feel those eyes looking at me. You know what the truth is? Nobody that was there that day remembers that day except me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really was not a big deal to anybody else, and nobody else cares. And the people who saw that probably thought, man, he must have just got over an injury or something. Something. Yeah. But it wasn't anything to be embarrassed about. It was, but I felt so out of place and unprepared, and like, so I just felt awful.
Well, we do. I mean, we do that. We build this stuff up in our head that I did the same thing. You may not even remember the conversation. This has been years ago, and I got to the point where I wasn't near. I mean, really, since you've been a part of this ministry, I haven't been as fast as I once was.
Now, wait a minute now. So,
but anyway, moving past that, I kind of struggled with that for a little while. Not that I was ever super fast, but, my training was to the point at one time where I ran a marathon that didn't go well, but I was trained to sub 3:20 marathon pace. And I really struggled with, for a variety of reasons. I started getting slower in my old age. I didn't have the want to be as fast as I used to, and that started to really bug me. And then one day it's like, maybe it was God prompting me, but I just kind of had this realization that that's okay. Yeah. It's okay if I'm not, and because I had it built up in my head that I'm the Run for God guy. I'm supposed to be really fast.
Yeah.
When I know now what God has showed me is that you're the really fast guy. And when we joke and say I'm the old slow guy, but we both speak to different people in this ministry now.
Yeah.
And back then I didn't see that. God knew it. I mean, we talk about God, just trust what God is doing. Trust where you're at. Trust everything about your situation and put it in God's hands, because I can clearly look back now. I mean, I was walking last year for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
But God used that.
Yeah.
We now have walkers as part of this ministry, and we celebrate them, and that would have never happened had
God
I not slowed down.
Yeah.
It just never would have happened had I not slowed down. And that's why we talk about it all the time. Look back.
Yeah.
Look back at
because you can see where you can see God's hand.
The path. Absolutely. Yeah.
Same thing goes for back in this day when I ran that track meet. You know what this track meet did for me? It motivated me. Most people are motivated one direction or another. Mm-hmm. Well, if I'm embarrassed by a performance, that motivates the fire out of me. Mm-hmm. I'm on fire then for I got to do better.
Yeah.
And it did. And from that point forward, I started back to running again and got back in better shape. And I think it was not long after that I ran a 10K pretty close to the same pace that I ran that 1 mile.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what God turns those things around. Another question: ever stay home because of a crisis of confidence? I'm kind of the other way around.
I'm kind of like you here.
Yeah, I'm kind of like I'm the guy who. If I say I'm gonna do something, then I want to do it anyway. And even though there are times when maybe I'd like to,
or probably should have.
Probably should have. Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like I don't know why this popped in my head. What's the movie with Mel Gibson where he's like a warrior and
Mad Max?
No, he's on a horse and it's like
Braveheart.
Yeah. That's usually me when my confidence is low. I'm like, let's all in. Let's go.
Just go in.
And I probably should sit on the couch for a little while. Yeah. But I think me and you are kind of alike here.
Yeah, but we see a lot of people though who do have that crisis of confidence.
It's unhealthy in the opposite way.
It is. I remember a girl one time. She had committed verbally to running the steeplechase. Well, if you understand the steeplechase, you have to jump over these barriers, and it's intimidating. She was also rather short, and so that made those barriers look really big. Mm-hmm. And I remember we got to this race where she was going to run the steeplechase, and she spent 30 minutes, literally, running up to that barrier and not jumping over it because she was intimidated by it over and over and over again. But if I hadn't been there and somebody had said, you can just not run that race, she probably wouldn't have run it. But because I'm that guy who's going to run that race anyway, I kind of pushed her into it. And of course, once the race started, everything was great. And that's what we find oftentimes when we lack confidence. And sometimes we feel like we shouldn't show up, but we show up anyway. Mm-hmm. Things turn out fine.
Yeah, I think a few things come to my mind right there is you talk about running up to the barrier. The thing about lack of confidence in those situations is it gets worse the more you don't do something. Yeah. I think of about, I grew up going to the lake and jumping off like a 30-foot cliff into the lake. And you have some people, I was always the guy that, where's it at? I'll jump. And I jump. Not even thinking. But then I had friends who they would spend 30 minutes, just like you said, walking up the edge, and you could see them trying to muster and it got when it first started, they just couldn't do it. But 30 minutes later, their knees are shaking. Everything, they're terrified. Yeah. And it got worse and worse and worse and worse. And gosh, how many times do we do that with God? Yeah. We have this sin or we have this something that we need to come clean about, and we just, today we're just not going to take it to God. We'll deal with it tomorrow. Or we need to ask forgiveness, or we need to offer forgiveness, whatever these situations. The longer we let it drag, the worse it gets.
Yeah, that's true.
Before long, you're not even talking to God.
Yep.
Before long, you're avoiding everything there is to do with God.
Yep.
All over something so silly many times as, you told your wife a white lie. I've done this one before. For whatever reason, I say something that's just not true, and it's like, immediately you're like, why did I do that? Yeah. Why did I say that? And I'll tear myself inside out for days. And then finally I'll go to her. I said, look, I said something the other day that just wasn't true.
Wow.
And she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got myself in divorce court, by the time I finally go talk to her in my head.
Yeah.
But that's so many times what it is. It's something that's so small that we or the devil will allow us to just turn us. You're an awful person. This is never going to be reconciled. Whatever. We literally come to the point of no return many times. And so many times it's just a little, just go deal with it. Go jump off that cliff, jump that hurdle, whatever it is. If you fall off, get back on. I used to make my kids do that when they had a bike wreck.
Yeah.
Immediately, you got to get back on.
Yeah.
You got to get back on and at least ride 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Nike fan, but man, they hit it out of the park with that slogan.
Just do it.
Just sometimes just do it. Just do it and rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
Last question. Can you go confidently into his presence? And do you? Of course, I wish I could say yes. I mean, we do often. I think we do often, but it's never all the time. We're never 100% in all the time.
Right. I think this is something you get better at.
Yeah.
The more you do it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I remember this was a great lesson for me when I was very young. I was 14 years old and I played on a baseball team. We had a great baseball team. And we went to the Southeast Regional. We won our state championship. We went to the Southeast Regional Championship, and we just knew we were just going to clean everybody's clock. And we started out. We won the first game 6-0 with a one hitter, and we were like, we're on our way, And then we ran into a team from Maryland, and that team beat us twice, and we wound up finishing second, I think, in the tournament. But in that last game, I had struggled at the plate. I was a pretty good hitter, but then all of a sudden, in this particular tournament, I struggled at the plate. And I could feel myself at the plate thinking, I hope I'm going to be able to do this. Mm-hmm. But I remember getting down, it was the last inning, and I thought, this may be my last at bat. And so I just went up there with this, I've got nothing to lose attitude of, I'm going to get up there, and the first good pitch I see, I'm going to hit it over the fence. I will hit a home run in this at bat. There's no question about it. I just had this in my mind, like there was no question I was going to do this. And I stepped to the plate just as confident as I could be. And the first good pitch I hit a ground rule double. It's pretty close to a home run. Mm-hmm. I just barely missed it. And but I realized at that point that had I done the same thing 3 games ago, I would have been knocking the cover off the ball 3 games ago. Mm-hmm. But because I was stepping to the plate with such timidity, as she points out here, that's what was causing me problems. You got to go confidently, and it's that way with God.
How many times do you see athletes do this with injuries?
Oh, yeah.
I had a conversation with Lane last night. Lane had a little quad tweak where I'm about positive it's over, but Lane's had a history with some injuries and just
that have lingered
and but we kind of had the conversation last night. You can come timidly to workouts for the next 6 months and never get back to your A game. Mm-hmm. Or you can go into this workout, which is this morning. I haven't talked to him yet to see how the workout went. Or you can go in there with the attitude, I'm no longer injured. Because you either are or you're not. Yeah. And so there's only one way to really find out at this point. We're all pretty sure, based on what I've said, you said this is one of the few times that you, me, and Andy have all lined up in what we're saying. Yep. Because he's getting input from all 3 of us. He does that, which is fine. Yeah. That's good. Mm-hmm. And we've all kind of lined. I told him what you said after last week's podcast when you and I talked, that, this is, sometimes you got to go. Yep. It's time to go. Yep. And, but we do that many times in our athletics. We get injured or something didn't go right and we're timid about, and we just hold ourselves back. And sometimes you just got to go. And if the injury's still there, then we know where we're at. Right. But timidly doing stuff and not feeling anything is not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah. Boy, you're right.
Sometimes you got to go.
And I can think of so many examples of athletes doing that. Mm-hmm. So many. Wow. Yeah. Good point. At Run for God, we care about more than just your exercise. We care about your relationship with God, and we believe that the music you listen to while you run can help you build your relationship with God. That's why we partner with J Radio. J Radio offers a variety of positive and Christian playlists to listen to while you run. You can find a playlist that I put together on the Run for God station on J Radio. All right, we're back, and we were just talking a little bit about coaching and athletes and things like that. What do you think is the toughest thing to deal with as a coach? Do you think it's injuries?
No. I mean, we've talked about this before. We've talked about with our athletes who, we had several at one time who were kind of getting pretty high level in triathlon. Lane is obviously still there. And I've always said that when you go to, like when Lane goes to a Continental Cup, which is the best guys in the country, the best guys in North America, everybody there is talented. Everybody there is fast. Everybody there has done this for years. Everybody there pretty much has the same training. The difference is who's willing to hurt the most.
Yeah.
In this sport.
Yeah.
That's what it really comes down to, is who is willing to hurt the most. And we've talked about the How Bad Do You Want It book, and there's all kinds of things that we've talked about. But I think really in the end, and even it doesn't have to be high level triathlon. It can be if you want to run your PR in your next 5K.
Yeah.
And training comes a little bit more into play there, but it still comes down to the 6 inches between your ears on race day.
Definitely the most important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always said, what would revolutionize coaching completely is if you had some kind of a meter where you could actually measure somebody's pain while they're running. If you actually knew how much stress the body was really getting while they were running, so that's
the cool thing about cycling. We have a power meter, so you can kind of
but that gives that tells you how well you're doing. I mean, you got a clock in running as well. To me, a power meter and a clock are not much different as far as it's measuring your performance.
True,
but you don't really know. I mean, in other words, I can get on a bike and I can go. I can do 200 whatever the watts, and Lane can go 200 watts. Ain't the same thing.
Right.
He's going to do it, and it's not going to feel like anything to him. Where it's going to feel like it's going to kill me. But I wish I could figure out how to tell whether, because you just get the feeling some people are really good at handling pain and some people are not. And all you can do is objectively try to look at it, but it's all a subjective opinion in the end, because you don't really know. Catherine on our college team. She looks like she never hurts.
That's true.
But I know that she has a seriously high pain tolerance.
Sure.
And you know how I know that? Because one day, when she was taking her first ice bath at the college, the trainer goes in, had filled up the ice bath for her. The trainer goes in there to check on her, and she's sitting in the ice bath,
neck deep,
up to her neck. I mean, and she's just sitting there like it's no big deal. Mm-hmm. Now, for most people, most people can never do that. Mm-hmm. And she's doing it like it's nothing because it's what she was supposed to do. So I know she has a high pain tolerance, but when she runs, you can't tell she hurts at all. And so I wish there was a way to measure how much.
It's funny you say that because, Lane will occasionally do that. We've got the neighbor's swimming pool over here. So in the wintertime, it's a ready-made ice bath. It's a swimming pool, but I mean, it gets down to the low 30s at times. It's a saltwater pool, so it doesn't freeze. And low 30s is probably statistically too cold to be doing an ice bath, but it's handy. So
way too cold.
He goes over there, but some days when he's had a bad swim workout, he'll go down to his neck, and we do 8 minutes. We don't do any longer than 8 minutes, and he'll get out. But I remember Landon and Patton come in from a workout one day, and Landon goes over and he gets waist deep in the ice bath. Patton couldn't even put his foot in. He put his foot in and took it out, and he said, "Y'all are crazy. I'm not doing this."
Yeah.
But Patton's still a good runner.
He is.
But imagine if we could get Patton's brain to not enjoy pain. That's probably the wrong word. To handle pain more.
Yeah.
Imagine what Patton could do.
Yeah. 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 Maybe everything. And there's so many athletes like that who they think. I was talking with a girl the other day on our team who I'm pretty sure she does not have a very high pain tolerance. And she was explaining to me how she has a way higher pain tolerance than most people. Well, everybody thinks they have a higher pain tolerance than everybody else. Everybody thinks I can endure more pain than everybody else. And the truth is that a lot of us can't endure a lot of pain.
Most times when somebody says it's excruciating, it's the worst pain I've ever felt, they don't have a high pain tolerance.
Right.
Usually the people that have a high pain tolerance, you rarely ever hear them talk about
how painful.
Hurting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. I mean, I think of Catherine. I think of Lane.
Yeah.
When I think of high pain tolerance.
Both of them. Yeah.
And many times their pain threshold will allow them to do better than some that have more talent because they're willing to walk that fire further.
Yeah.
And
but it makes us have to listen to them a little closer too. Because when Catherine says she's hurting, my ears perk up. It's like, whoa. What did you say?
Yeah. Well, that's why it was so difficult with Lane.
Yeah.
These past few weeks and I've just 100% turned it over to him.
Yeah.
You're going to have to tell me.
Smart thing. Yeah.
But the minute he said, I don't feel it anymore, then I'm going to start pushing.
Yep.
And I've told him that. So you got to be 100% honest.
Right.
Because my job as coach, I'm dad, but I'm also coach, is to push you. But your job is as athlete is to be honest. Because Lane has been guilty in the past of just running through some stuff he probably shouldn't have ran through. Mm-hmm. And so, but now he's 19 now. You come to a point where you got to be honest. He knows his body well enough now. He understands what's sore and what's pain, what's acute and what's not. And, as coaches, you got to rely on that sometimes. Yeah. Because Lane's never given us any reason to not trust what he's saying.
Right.
So, yeah. Pain's a peculiar thing.
Well, it is time for Dean's Thoughts, and that's a time when I share something that I've written about the intersection between running and faith. The world is united around Ukraine, but of course we're still so divided on so many issues. And runners are in a unique position, though, and I'm going to talk about why in this story called Rally Around the Suffering. As I watch the news about Ukraine, I noticed that most of the country and even the world is unified in supporting the people of a country that is the size of Texas with the population of California. The last time I remember our country being unified against a cause was in the aftermath of 9/11. Even the pandemic did not unify us in the way that it probably should have. You have probably noticed, outside of the example of Ukraine, society is more divided than it has been in a long time. As a Christian, it breaks my heart. I don't want to get political, but why is it that something like a war thousands of miles away can unite us like it has? I think there are several reasons, but one of them is that we have a natural instinct to want to help people through tough times. Think about it. No matter your political persuasion, your goal is always to help make things better. The reason we're divided is that there's a dispute between how to do it. In the case of Ukraine, it is easy for everyone to see the injustice in it and rally around the people we wish to help. Okay, so what does all that have to do with running? If you've ever been to a running event where there are hundreds or even thousands of people gathered, you never hear any arguments. Why? Well, because everyone is united around this thing we call running. Why do we rally around each other for that reason? Well, it's hard, and we all know it. We all love an overcomer story, and running is all about overcoming, whether it's the pain of a race or just forcing yourself out the door to go for a run. We can support one another because we love to rally around anyone who is going through tough times. Running can be a daily grind. We know that we feel better about our running when we talk with someone about it, so we seek out those relationships and help each other out. I've been to a lot of local road races. There are dozens of people who I know as runners, but I have no idea what they do for a living or what political persuasion they hold. It doesn't matter. We have a common struggle, and that's enough. We build each other up because we understand each other, and we have a common enemy, complacency and poor fitness. When you think about it, being a runner at one of those events may be a non-Christian gathering, but there are a lot of Christian principles being applied. Now, there may be some that are not, but our common love for the sport still unites us. Likewise, our walk of faith, we are challenged to support one another, even to the point of praying for our enemies. This is what Jesus says in Mark 12:29-31. After being asked which was the greatest commandment, the most important one, answered Jesus, is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. It is simple. We are to love and support one another. Period. It doesn't say we have to support everything everyone chooses to do, but we do have to support people. We do it when we go to a Saturday morning race. Why can't we do it every other time? I think we look at running a lot like we look at the situation in Ukraine. We want to support those who are struggling. I can guarantee that the people of Ukraine are thankful for the support coming from all around the world. The running community is super supportive of itself. Isn't it a blessing to know that there are many people who are supporting you simply because you're a runner or a walker? When you get to the point that you're not sure you can do it, remember that there are thousands of people who would give you positive words if they knew you were struggling. It is important that we go to prayer and the Bible when we struggle with our faith. We know that God will meet us when we need Him and earnestly search for Him. Realize, too, that there is a community out there who wants to see you succeed in this active journey. Draw energy from that knowledge and get out the door and go for that run.
It's a good job, Dean. Great story.
Well, it's true, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I mean, I really seriously, I know some people who I talk to frequently about running, and I have no idea what their political leanings are. Now, I might be able to guess a little bit, but I'm not sure. So yeah. I think that's interesting. And I don't care. That's the best part about it is I don't care. I don't want to talk to them about that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I mean, I've talked about a friend that I had in the triathlon community who he was the dad of a young lady who raced, and I know, he is a college professor. He's about as opposite of me politically that you can get in every way. But we found something in common years ago, and we formed a great friendship. And that's okay. In fact, that's great. Yep. I say it a lot. I'm very surprised that him and I hit it off because of our differences on so many issues. But for whatever reason, we have this friendship that's just incredible. And I've reached out to him and told him I'm praying for him in certain situations, and that's the way we're supposed to do with everybody. And I always use that as my example because I need to replicate my relationship with him. His name is William, with everybody I meet. Because right. We tend to prejudge people the minute we meet them. Yep. We get this hint, or we look at how they're dressed or the way they're wearing their hair, whatever, and we're very presumptuous, and we jump to conclusions, and we start judging people right when we meet them, and that is so wrong.
Yep.
Someone can be lost as the day is long, and we're to love them. In fact, we should love them even more than somebody who's just like us.
Yeah.
Because it's our job to tell them about Christ. How can we tell them about Christ if we start a relationship off on political disagreements, or I think this, you think that, and pointing fingers? The Christ discussion
can't take place. No, because nobody's going to listen to somebody who's yelling at them all the time and tell them how wrong they are about everything they think.
And and it doesn't mean, and there's so many people out there who feel like, well, if you get along with that person, that means you're condoning what they're doing. No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that at all. And if you disagree with somebody, society will say that you hate them, and that's not the truth.
That's not the truth.
There are things that I don't agree with a lot of my friends, but I love them.
Yeah.
And that's the way we're to do it.
Yeah. Yep. The toughest thing in this world is to love the unlovable. You know, we've heard that before, and it's so true. And we know people. When I said that, there are people who thought somebody popped in your brain. Who is that person for you who is unlovable? And we need to go out there and we need to love that person.
Yeah.
We need to make an effort to do that, because it's harder to do that for that person, I think. And that's what God tells us to do. You know, I wrote a story one time about my Saturday friends, or I can't remember how I phrased it, but it was about the friends that I have on Saturday, but I don't have them any other day because I used to run all those races. And we need to look at people outside of our self in the same way we look at those Saturday people. You know, I love to see those people and I love to talk to them. We need to love those people that we meet at work, that we meet out at the grocery store. We need to look at them the same way and realize they're people that need Christ or may need Christ.
But we've also got to be different in those situations. You talk about your Saturday friends, I'll talk about my job site friends.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I will leave this podcast and I'm going to go to a job site where there's probably 100 people down there working right now.
Yeah.
And these are people that some believe like me. Some are going to get off work tomorrow night and head to a bar somewhere. Some are going to be some of the foulest language I've ever heard in my life. They're going to be speaking it right around me. Mm-hmm. What we can't do as believers is slip into the trap of blending in. We have to not stand apart in an arrogant way, but we have to be different. We have to shine Christ when we're in those situations. Otherwise, those people will never see Christ. Many of these people I deal with on the construction sites, it's not that they don't like Christ or don't know or don't love Christ. They don't know Christ.
Yeah.
They grew up in situations where they've never opened a Bible.
Yeah.
They've never heard the gospel.
Yeah.
And that's a big responsibility that we have as believers, but we need to step up to the plate and be different. I don't go on the job site and start preaching to people. I just don't do that.
Yeah.
But I have my Run for God shirt on every time I go there. They know what I stand for, and I know that because many times when I walk in, I hear the 4-letter words just kind of die.
Yeah.
And that lets me know that it's not about Mitchell. It's Christ. They're seeing a picture of Christ, not Mitchell.
Right.
But my hope is that I'm reflecting Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it just recently struck me. I got a lady at the college that I talk to all the time, and she uses a lot of 4-letter words. Mm-hmm. And we've talked a number of times, and I've been real supportive in a lot of things she does. But it struck me that I could look at the language that she uses in a negative way, or I could look at things this way, just like you were just talking about. When I'm around, she doesn't use that language, and every once in a while she lets one slip, and as soon as she does, she apologizes for it. She says, "I know you don't want to hear that." And again, what kind of impact is that having? And what kind of impact does it have when if she feels that way about me, I should feel better about her rather than worse about her. You know what I mean? Because she used that language.
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's letting you know that God's doing something there.
Yeah, yeah.
God is absolutely doing something there.
Yep.
And, we talk about the hateful stuff we get on the social media sometime, and Mark Yohope says those are the biggest opportunities.
Yep.
When you trigger when somebody sees God reflected and it triggers a response, good or bad, that is a good thing.
Yeah. Because
that means that the worst thing that can happen is somebody just be apathetic to you.
Yeah.
They don't change. That means we're not doing our part. We're not being different. We're not setting ourselves apart and shining the light of Jesus Christ. That probably means we're just blending in.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that we go in and start cussing, but we'll just kind of, it would be like me going to a job site and making sure I change my shirt before I go to the job site.
Yeah.
But many times we do that, not that directly, but we'll go in and we'll not talk about the church service on Sunday because of who might be in the room. We have to be different. We did one of the God's Thoughts videos on our website is called Be Different.
Yeah. Not
be cocky, not be arrogant, not be I'm better than you. Be different.
Yeah.
And we've talked about, Lane had the question one time from several teenagers. Lane, we never hear you cuss. Why is that? And Lane almost was, at the time, he was almost kind of embarrassed of that. And I had to explain, you should be proud of that.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So just
we're not judging you if you're out there and you're listening and you use some of that language. We're not definitely not judging people for that for sure. It's but it is one way that we can stand out and be different.
Sure, absolutely,
for sure.
Do you struggle with motivation to exercise? Are you looking for something that will challenge you and inspire and motivate you? The Run for God Run Club is just what you need to get off the couch and on your way to a fitter, healthier you. Stop trying to get into better shape and do it with the help and inspiration of thousands of others who are going through the same challenges you face. Whether you are participating in the Couch to Marathon Challenge or any of our other challenges, or you're just looking for a daily pick-me-up to get active, join the Run for God Run Club today. You can join for as little as 27 cents a day. So what are you waiting for? Get started today at runforgod.com.
All right, we're back. We had some really, really cool stuff happen this past weekend on the professional running scene. A new U.S. record in the 10K. It was like the day they had it was absolutely. They actually postponed it one day because the day before the weather wasn't great and it looked like the weather was going to be good the next day. Well, when they had it, it was like 50 degrees, no wind. They had the pacing light on the track. I mean, it was like perfect, 100% perfect conditions. And sure enough, Grant Fisher went out and broke the American record by 11 seconds, which is a lot. Ran 26:33. And Grant Fisher's a relatively young dude.
Where was that at?
It was in California.
California, okay.
Yeah. And they just got this race together for just a bunch of people to come and run. There were a bunch of great runners there. And as a matter of fact, this came down to the wire. Grant Fisher actually had to outkick Mo Ahmed from Canada.
So did Mo also break the record?
Mo broke the Canadian record. He's Canadian.
Okay.
And then the Australian record was also broken in this race. So it was a great day. And this Grant Fisher, he's really flourished. He broke Rupp's indoor 5K record, ran 12:53 a couple of weeks ago, and then here he comes running this 10K. This 10K places him 7th all time. Now, if you follow U.S. distance running, you realize that as far as U.S. distance running goes, anything 10K and up, it's unusual for the Americans to have any times in the top 10. So that's pretty impressive. There's only been 3. This is an incredible stat. There's only been 3 people outside of Africa who have ever broken 27 minutes for the 10K. 3 total, and they're all Americans. Chris Zielinski did it first. He ran 26:59. Then Galen Rupp broke his American record, ran 26:44, and now Grant Fisher has run 26:33. And of course, Joshua Cheptegei from Uganda is the guy that holds the world record at 26:11. So, just a great day. I think that super shoes play a part in the faster times these days, as we talked about. But it really makes those older guys and some of those times that they ran along, like Eamon Coughlin we were talking about, makes him look really, really fast these days when you look back on it. And then on the female side, Elise Cranny just barely missed the American record, and I didn't hear this until just this morning. Apparently, what happened with Elise Cranny was they had the timing light. They have this pacing light, and all they got to do is stay ahead of that pacing light. And if they stay ahead of that pacing light, they break a world record or American record or whatever it's set for. So they had this light set, and Elise Cranny finished well ahead of the light. So it was like, yeah, she broke the American record. But they had the pacing light set at 30:16. The American record was 30:13. And Elise Cranny ran 30:14. So she missed the American record by 1 second.
Somebody had one job.
Yes. Yeah.
To type in the right time.
Yeah.
For that pacing line. Oh, that's terrible.
Isn't that awful? And so, I mean, we don't know whether she had another second in her or not, but she looked really good doing it. So you get the feeling like she may have. And there's some question as to whether or not she knew that it was set at 30:16.
She was 4 seconds faster than the record. Is that she thought she was breaking it by 4 seconds?
There's some question about that. Nobody really knows because there's some speculation that the coach actually set it at 30:16 for a reason. I don't know, but at any rate,
that seems counterintuitive. If I were the coach, I would set it faster. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I would lie the other way.
Yeah.
To make them break it by 7 seconds.
Yeah.
Rather than miss it by 1.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but it's good news because American distance running is on its way up, and maybe the most impressive story of the day was Sarah Lancaster. Sarah Lancaster is 34 years old. She just got the world standard, the world championship standard, by running like 31:21 or something crazy fast. Anyway, well, Sarah Lancaster went to the University of Texas and was a basketball and tennis player. She went on a tennis scholarship is how she started. She was a really good tennis player. She did some trick shots in basketball, and they thought, you need to try out for the basketball team. So she went and played basketball, and she played on the UT basketball team. She ran a little bit of track. She ran like a 58-second 400. And then she goes and gets her degree. She's a lawyer. So she's a part-time runner. She's like the rest of us, right? And then she goes and she qualifies. She runs the world standard for 1,500 meters. A little while later, she runs the world standard for 5K. And now she's run the world standard for 10K. And all this stuff while she's still an attorney.
Kind of sounds like Gwen Jorgensen.
Yeah.
She was an accountant.
Yeah. It's
won the gold medal.
It's a cool story.
Yeah.
So, and then of course this weekend too at the Tokyo Marathon, Eliud Kipchoge showed why he is the GOAT, and just ran away. I mean, just wore everybody else down. Ran the fastest time it's ever been run in Tokyo. So now he has the fastest time ever.
Which was what?
It was he ran 2:02 something.
Wow.
He ran.
And how old is he?
I don't know if we know how old Eliud
He's
Kipchoge
not a young
is.
guy.
No, he is not. He's definitely in his mid-30s. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's just, somebody mentioned this and I thought what a great, here's how good Eliud Kipchoge is. If you took his career and split it in half and took and made that two separate runners, those would be the number 1 and number 2 best marathoners of all time. That's how good Eliud Kipchoge is.
He's 37 years old.
Yeah. And he's so he has now won 4 of the 6 world marathon majors. That's his goal. But here's the thing. Eliud Kipchoge has never won a hilly marathon. He's never run a hilly marathon. And both Boston and New York, which are the remaining world majors, are hilly races. And so his goal is to win all 6. So eventually he's going to run Boston and New York. So it should be interesting to see how he does there.
Cool.
I can't wait to see it. And then, of course, Bridget Koskei, who's also the world record holder in the marathon. She ran the 3rd fastest time ever. So she's got 2 of the 3 top fastest times, and Eliud Kipchoge has 2 of the 3 fastest times. So those Kenyans, man, oh man. All right. We have a trivia question for this week. How about an ultra marathoning question? You know, you dabbled in ultra marathoning at one time. So how about this? Who holds the record for the fastest run across the United States, and how long did it take? And you can send that answer to dean@runforgod.com, and the first person to send me the answer will win a Run for God Run Club tumbler. So
I think I know this.
Do you think you do?
I think I do. The name is kind of escaping me. I know it's a weird last name.
Yeah.
Am I close there?
You may be.
It's kind of a weird last name, and I think I remember how long it took.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well,
I'll ask you when we stop this.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And every week I share a reason why running is so awesome. And this week, the reason why running is so awesome is socks.
Go figure.
You know, a lot of runners love to make a statement with their socks. And it's so fun sometimes.
Nowadays they do.
Yeah.
That hadn't been a thing for long.
No, it hasn't. It has not. But there's so many different socks out there. And, you know, I'm not a big sock guy. There's one style of sock that I wear. They're not very expensive. They're $3 a pair when they're not on sale. I usually buy them on sale, though, when they're $2 a pair.
And you can buy them in 10 packs.
Yeah, that's right. That's the kind of socks I buy. So, but I appreciate those who do like to show their more flamboyant side, so to speak, and show off their socks. Lane is a sock geek sometimes, right?
Yeah, the crazier the better for him.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yes, he's still that way.
Yeah.
19 years old, he's still that way.
Well, there's a lot of people way older than 19 that are that way. So, our motivational thought of the week is this. If you're serious about changing your life, you'll find a way. If you're not, you'll find an excuse.
I love that.
Yeah. That comes from Jen Sincero, who she's a motivational speaker and writer. She wrote some books, which I won't mention the name of those books because they're a little, they're not great but what a great sentiment she had here. Very plain spoken. And, sometimes I know me, I need to hear things that way.
Bluntness.
Bluntness is good for me.
Sure. My wife says I'm a little too blunt.
Yeah, the problem is not everybody likes it that way.
You're too blunt.
Yeah.
We're both blunt.
Yeah.
Of course, you're from New Jersey. I don't have an excuse. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I have an excuse. That's right. Yeah. All right. Well, didn't we just talk about that? We don't have excuses to treat people poorly, no matter what.
Exactly.
Right. That's right.
Well, I don't think bluntness is treating poorly. It can get there, but I think bluntness is good. Sometimes you need to hear the cold hard truth.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And I have been appreciated for my bluntness on occasion, and as have you.
Yeah.
So, yep. All right. That wraps us up for this week. Hope everybody is doing great. Keep it up. We're proud of you. Now may God bless every step of every run. Go out there and shine your light.
Good job, Dean.
For more information about the Run for God ministry, go to runforgod.com. If you have questions about your salvation, click on the Peace with God tab. There's nothing more important. Thanks for joining us today.